Kid Rock is one of the most consistently fierce and polarizing recording artists of our time, known by many as Bob. His unwavering confidence is as big a part of his music career as the massive guitars or country flair mixed with a rock attitude. But Kid Rock hasn't always been so confident. In fact, Kid has dealt with all sorts of struggles. A tarnished reputation, deceitful music industry executives, even family betrayal. All of this has pushed him to the point of quitting music. So, what really happened in shocking feuds with stars like Eminem and Oprah? How did he transition from a young hip-hopper to the rock star we all know today? And most importantly, did he really quit music and why? Today we're gonna find out what really lies behind the brash rockstar exterior known as Kid Rock. Before we hit the road, make sure to give this video a thumbs up to show support, and subscribe to our channel for more. Now you ready? Well, let's explore the truth behind this American bad boy and find out. What happened? A country boy can survive. Robert James Ritchie always knew he was something special. There were two worlds in Detroit at that time. There was his family's world of the country, where music from guys like Bob Seger and Hank Williams reigned. Old school tunes that were the soundtrack to the lives of so many countless factory workers. Then there was the inner city, the world of hip-hop, edge, and fiery youth. Robert was first brought up in that world, but it was the second in which he strove to make his mark. When he began rapping as a teen, everybody knew he had something special. Venue to venue, trailed by steadily increasing gang of unruly suburban youths, who, like Robert, were very hungry for authenticity and found it in hardcore hip-hop. Promoters, initially skeptical of such a ridiculous thing as a white rapper, were blown away by the crowds that he was able to pull at local venues. It seemed like the path to success was clear and easy at first. But while fans knew that Robert was different from the musicians around him, not everybody did agree. The real Slim Shady. By the time Robert got his first record deal at the age of 17 with New York label Jive Records, very few were still surprised. And after his first album dropped, Grits Sandwiches for Breakfast, he performed at a local Detroit record store on Gratiot Avenue to a very enthusiastic crowd. But there was one person in attendance who was not so impressed. It was another skinny white kid, badgering Robert, screaming at him, "I'll battle you." If that wasn't enough, the kid followed Robert out to the parking lot, still wanting to battle. Well, that kid would eventually embark upon a successful recording career of his own under the stage name Eminem. And while Robert and Marshall would eventually become good friends, this incident was a precursor to a very big problem. While Robert and his fellow white rappers each had their own style, record label executives failed to distinguish between them. In their eyes, there was only room for one white rapper in town. So when Vanilla Ice began to climb up the charts with Ice Ice Baby, the guys upstairs began to give Robert the side eye. So despite the fact that Grits Sandwiches for Breakfast was very well received, and Robert's gang of ragamuffins was only growing, Jive Records dropped him, and now it seemed like his music career was over before it had even begun. But while this blow was crushing at first, it soon became apparent that it might be more of a blessing than a curse, because while Robert lost the support of the music industry, he had also freed himself from the constraints that were forced upon his music. And now, without label bosses calling the shots, Robert could make music that spoke not only to the fiery and feral inner city, but also to the disparate worlds of rock and roll, soul, and metal. The worlds that represented the country lifestyle he had grown up with, fully showing all sides of Detroit. So, Robert got to work on his second album, The Polyfuse Method. And now the guy took massive risks, sampling Pink Floyd, using live guitars. and even hiring a flute player for the sessions. So while he had been performing under the name Kid Rock for a while now, I believe this is the moment where Robert truly became Kid Rock. What the cuck? While the Polyfuse method and the records that came after it were artistic triumphs and local favorites, they did not go far nationally without major label support. So even as Kid was coming into his own as a musician, things weren't going so smooth personally. In fact, he was about to uncover a stunning secret that would once more push him to quit music forever. The year was 1993, and Kid was continuing to experiment with his unique blend of genres, incorporating even more rock and country into his recordings and performances. He put out a great cover of Hank Williams Jr.'s Country Boy Can Survive. And he was upping the game with his live act, adding pyrotechnics and a little person. But while these improvements were growing his rabid base of local followers, he was still battling for notoriety with groups like Eminem and Insane Clown Posse, still living in a rundown house with his girlfriend Kelly and her 3 kids. It was a less than ideal situation. Of those 3 kids, one of which was born that summer of '93, only 2 were his. At least that's what he thought. But then, through sheer chance, he found out that only one of those kids was actually his. Well, that deception was too much for the relationship to survive, and Kid broke things off with Kelly that year. It seemed like doing all the right things, performing, making compromises, just wasn't enough to be happy. Once again, Kid considered leaving it all behind. But deep down, Robert knew he could never abandon music, never lead a normal life building transmissions or flipping burgers. He knew that the problem wasn't him, it was with the industry. But while obviously he couldn't change the industry, he could work even harder to make the industry come to him. Bob started hanging around the White Room studio in Detroit and quickly began making himself useful with his wide range of musical skills. He began singing for the first time, and began incorporating even more rock music into his act. Heck, if he couldn't get hip-hop to accept him, well, maybe rock would. It didn't come easy. It would take years of hard work, 5 years of hard touring and recording. But in 1998, the fruits of his labor were apparent with his first major label record, Devil Without a Cause. And now, for the very first time, an entire nation learned the name Kid Rock. Cancel this. I'm sure I don't have to recount the next stage of Kid's career. He became a national icon, both for his catchy, soul-inflicted hits and his hard-hitting album cuts. But even as he became beloved by Americans everywhere, not everybody was happy with Kid's music or his outspoken opinions. While I'm sure you heard about the following events, you probably did through the mainstream media. So let's take a closer look at what really happened when Kid Rock was almost forced to quit music. This time not by musical disappointment or life's problems, but by the media. Kid Rock has always taken pride in saying what he wants, never cowering to the censors or whiners. That's just part of his appeal, but it's also landed him in some hot water. In 2019, he went on a rant at his honky-tonk bar in Nashville, taking to task Oprah, Joy Behar, and Kathy Lee Gifford. To be fair, his remarks were quite inflammatory. Kid had obviously had quite a bit to drink that night, but he has also always been a foul-mouthed provocateur. Anybody who's listened to his music can tell you that. The media just didn't get it, and assumed to have beef with such beloved stars like Oprah, Kid had to be racist. Many called for Bob to be canceled, for his career to be vanquished. Of course, what they didn't tell you is that Bob had a reason for his remarks, even if you didn't agree with it. Oprah tried to get his team to do the Oprah Winfrey Show, but with a big asterisk. Kid was going to have to write down 5 reasons why he loved Oprah and her show. But that's just not how Kid Rock operates. Unfortunately, the cancellation attempt failed, and Kid has gone on to put out more and more great music, becoming even more and more outspoken about his beliefs. Because he learned a lesson early in his career that some people never learn. If you consistently defend your right to speak your beliefs, and you put that energy into everything you do, You'll be appreciated for who you are, not for who people want you to be. Kid Rock has dealt with blows that would bring lesser men to their knees, but nothing has been able to stop him from accomplishing everything he tries his hand at. Whether it be music, business, acting in commercials, or speaking his mind, the Kid Rock so many love today is still going strong. He's embarking on the No Snowflakes tour, where he's bringing his incredible live shows all around the country, and he's continuing to run his honky-tonk steakhouse in Nashville. I think we can all agree Kid Rock will always speak his mind, no matter what the consequences. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, always making his fans proud. In fact, he's been one of the most vocal advocates for preserving Hank Williams' house. So go ahead and try to stop him. You certainly won't be the first. Alright, enough of me, now we want to hear from you. Which Kid Rock album is the best? What song is your personal favorite? Do you agree with everything Kid Rock says, or do you just agree with his right to say it? And finally, who should we do a video for next? Get in the comments and tell us your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our channel and come back often so we can keep telling you.